Now at 9, protests at Utah State Capitol ahead of Inauguration Day. How state troopers prepared to make sure things were kept under control.
More than 10 business owners won't have a place to work tomorrow after a massive fire erupted here. Hear from the building owners tonight.
And Utah building a new state prison. Could its design help in rehabilitating prisoners? Fox 13 going in depth for you on this hot topic in our latest 360 report.
And a change in the flow with some wild winds and wet weather. When do we see the strongest wind gusts and when does the snow fall? I'll let you know in the forecast.
Live from Utah's news leader, Fox 13 News at 9 starts right now.
What was expected to be perhaps a repeat of protests that took place on January 6th was anything but. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. I'm Brian Schnee.
And I'm Amy Nay. Hundreds of people were expected to gather at the Utah State Capitol today, which sparked a heavy police and security presence, but only a couple dozen protesters actually showed up.
Fox 13's Diego Romo spoke with the Department of Public Safety about what unfolded at the Capitol today.
We for sure did not want to have any sort of situation occur as to what we saw in Washington, D.C.
DPS Commissioner Jess Anderson said there were more than 600 boots on the ground between police, the National Guard, and other law enforcement agencies.
This is monumental. We've never done anything like this in the past, never.
Of the 20 or so protesters at the Capitol, around a dozen were part of a group calling themselves the Boys of Liberty.
We have a huge problem right now with overreaching government, and we have government infringing on people's rights all the time.
Adding they were not here to support any political party or agenda.
I don't trust any of it. I don't like either of the people there. I mean, we're having to choose between two people that want to enforce unconstitutional laws, that want to be dictators.
Their members were seen holding a Boogaloo Boys flag and wearing Hawaiian shirts, which are typically associated with the group. The Anti-Defamation League classifies the Boogaloo Boys as an anti-government extremist movement with the goal of starting a second civil war. There were also a few supporters of President Donald Trump who say they do not believe the results of the election and will continue to support him even after President-elect Joe Biden's upcoming inauguration.
I want the government to see that, I mean, they're not going to get away with this.
In total, less than 30 people showed up to the Capitol. DPS says the numbers of law enforcement present could have helped deter people from coming.
Having enough manpower and that show of force definitely is something that helps us.
UHP troopers and members of the Utah National Guard will continue to remain on site here at the Capitol in the coming days. Commissioner Anderson added that the Capitol building will stay closed to the public until tensions cool down. On the Hill, Diego Romo, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Thanks so much, Diego. Utah Governor Spencer Cox and Lieutenant Governor Deidre Henderson were with authorities inside the Capitol today. Now, Cox shared these pictures on social media, thanking the National Guard and law enforcement, saying that today was the best case scenario and that those who came to protest were peaceful.
Of course, the small protest here in Utah was not the only rally that happened today. There were a handful of protests popping up around the country this weekend as law enforcement remains vigilant ahead of Wednesday's inauguration.
Fox's Mike Tobin now with the very latest from Washington.
National Guardsmen keeping a watchful eye on state capitol buildings amid FBI warnings of potential terror threats in all 50 states. In Michigan, a small group of armed protesters demonstrated Sunday outside the Capitol in Lansing, but kept things peaceful.
We encourage all of our chapters and factions across the country to come to their capitals on these events to urge a message of peace and unity to the left and right.
States which served as battlegrounds in November's election are on especially high alert.
There are armed, disturbed people who are in this state of mind where they believe that their country is being taken from them. And so it's a threat law enforcement in the states has to take very seriously.
The heaviest security presence of all is in Washington, D.C. Saturday, Capitol Police arrested a woman who they say was impersonating law enforcement. When questioned at a security checkpoint, she drove off, but was quickly caught and taken into custody. The area around the Capitol has been essentially locked down by the National Guard ahead of Wednesday's inauguration of President-elect Joe Biden.
I do think we have to take another posture in our city that is more domestic terrorist focused than external. We don't want to see fences. We definitely don't want to see armed troops on our streets, but we do have to take a different posture.
Secret Service, the FBI, and other agencies are also assisting with security here. Around 25,000 National Guard troops have been tapped to be on duty in D.C. for Inauguration Day. In Washington, D.C., Mike Tobin, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Among those National Guard soldiers in our nation's capital, nearly 350 of those soldiers are from the Utah National Guard. They arrived in D.C. on Friday. We'll keep you posted on any developments in our nation's capital as we get closer to Inauguration Day.
Well, this weekend, the founder of Black Lives Matter Utah says John Sullivan, the Utah activist who was recently arrested for his role at the riots in Washington, D.C., is not associated with them. Lex Scott telling Fox News that Sullivan is a reckless agitator who never joined the local BLM chapter or took part in its mission for racial justice and police reform. Now, Sullivan claims he was at the riots to document the events happening at the Capitol. He is currently under house arrest and set to be back in federal court for a virtual appearance January 22nd. And in more local news tonight, take a look at this, a big plume of smoke going up into the air. This is a massive fire that erupted at a plaza in Midvale this morning. And now more than 10 businesses are shut down because of it.
Those business owners unsure when they will be able to open their doors again or the true extent of the damages. Fox 13's Sydney Glenn joining us in Midvale, where she spoke with the building's owners.
The building owners say they're absolutely heartbroken about what happened here this morning. One of the buildings looks to be a complete loss from the fire. The other one appears to have some smoke and possible water damage. They say they just cannot believe this happened. Ida Baghomian got a call this morning she never expected. Her building was on fire. One of the tenants called as fire trucks raced to the scene.
He had come to work over the weekend. Thank God he forgot his key and his fob to get into the building, because had he been in there, I don't know what would have happened.
The flames continued to grow, and people could see the smoke for miles. Hours and hours went by, and firefighters remained on scene, working to stop the flames. Ida said it was beyond impressive to watch.
Fire crews that are out here, incredible.
Unfortunately, fire crews say several businesses were destroyed.
It's a sad day, especially now in the times we have where businesses are struggling, and we see something like this, it's awful.
The siblings who own this building say they're devastated as they look around, especially for the people whose businesses were burned.
Things can be built, but it's our tenants that we need to get back up and running.
These are people's livelihoods, and it's been heartbreaking.
Now the siblings vow to make a call as soon as they can, telling their tenants the building's been fixed. The battalion chief says the cause of this fire is still under investigation. No one was hurt. He says it's very rare to see a commercial fire like this that impacts so many businesses at once. In Midvale, Sydney Glenn, Fox 13 News, Utah.
In Taylorsville, a man was hit by a car and sent to Intermountain Medical Center in extremely serious condition. Unified Police say this happened at 4430 South Atherton Drive right after 5 o'clock tonight. Investigators say the driver of a minivan ran a red light, hitting a man in the crosswalk. Police say the driver involved told them the sun was in his eyes when the accident happened.
This time of year, this is one of those things. It becomes that time of night when that sun's just in that spot that it's really difficult to see. If you find yourself in that predicament, the advice is to go incredibly slow until you're sure. If you're not sure, don't proceed. It's just not worth it. Get yourself a good pair of sunglasses, and that's what the sun visor in your vehicle's for. Make sure your windows are clean as well.
Alcohol found at the scene belonged to the pedestrian who purchased it nearby. It was not open. Police say there were no immediate signs of impairment in the driver. The cause of this crash remains under investigation. South Salt Lake police say a woman is dead after a crash overnight. It happened at 3280 South, 900 West around 3:30 this morning. The victim has been identified as 47-year-old Lark Anderson. Police say no citations have been issued and no arrest has been made at this time, but a person of interest has been identified and interviewed. Police say speed was not a contributing factor in this fatal accident.
New details now tonight in the mysterious death of the brother of Lori Vallow Daybell, the mother of 2 Idaho children found dead in her husband's backyard last summer. As we've reported, the investigation into the sudden death of Alex Cox is now closed. His death was ruled natural causes due to heart failure, but we are learning more about what happened before his death in December of 2019, months after J.J. Vallow and Tylee Ryan disappeared. According to documents from police in Gilbert, Arizona, a friend of Cox's, who was not identified, gave him a blessing over the phone the day he died. That friend told Alex's wife to leave work to go check on him because he was not feeling well. East Idaho News is reporting that friend was Chad Daybell, his sister's husband. Back when JJ and Tylee disappeared, Alex's cell phone was pinged in Daybell's backyard, where JJ and Tylee's remains were found, implicating Alex in their deaths. At this point, Lori and Chad are both behind bars, set to go to trial later this summer. Neither of them, though, facing murder charges. But the prosecutor in the case has promised to file conspiracy to commit murder charges.
A sad update now from Wasatch County. Deputies have found the body of a man who was reported missing last month. Wasatch County Sheriff's Office says they found 53-year-old Chad West yesterday morning after someone called 911 saying they found a truck that matched the description of West's vehicle. Detectives are investigating what led up to his death, but they do not suspect any criminal activity here.
Today, Unified Police honored a fallen officer 5 years after he was shot and killed in the line of duty.
His presence, you could hear his loud voice, his laughter all the time, and our community recognized that. And, you know, I thank our community for never forgetting Doug.
So many of us were touched by the life of Officer Doug Barney. It was January 17th, 2016, when Unified Police Officer Doug Barney was shot and killed while investigating a traffic crash in Holiday. UPD released a tribute video on Facebook honoring Barney's service, followed by a live radio broadcast from the Salt Lake Valley Emergency Communications Center. Officer Barney was an 18-year veteran of law enforcement. He left behind a wife and 3 children.
The University of Utah honoring Martin Luther King Jr. throughout the next week, not just on MLK Day tomorrow. This year's theme is Good Trouble, which late Congressman and civil rights icon John Lewis coined. Events include a car rally, a concert, film screenings, speeches, service projects, and much more. You can learn more about these projects by visiting our website, fox13now.com.
Turning to the weather right now, it was a gorgeous day out at the Great Salt Lake. Look at that pretty picture. These views captured by Fox 13 photojournalist Jesse Walden. Thank you, Jesse. Lots of people enjoying the lake and the Mirabolite mounds by the shoreline.
But there is a change in the air soon. Meteorologist Breck Bolton joining us now with our first alert forecast. Beautiful day by the water, Breck.
It really was a beautiful day. You saw that layer of haze. You mentioned this changes for the good, at least for the most part, but there is one area of focus that's bringing some concern, at least across northern Utah. But it was a spectacular weekend. Yes, we had the inversion in place, some haze, a beautiful sunset though, highlighting that sunset with a friend of the program. Fatima sending this in where we saw a lot of colors with that sunset. But again, as we look towards tonight, we're bringing in a cold front, but ahead of that front, we found afternoon highs above normal. Close to 50 degrees in Ogden, Salt Lake City as well. A little bit colder in Logan. Your high today, 38 degrees, 46 in Price, 60 degrees in St. George. You've had a string of 60s and almost spring-like weather down towards southern Utah, holding on to the sunshine. Now, currently, we're down into the 30s, still fairly mild at this time of the evening. Ahead of that front, which is just right on our doorstep. Central and southern Utah temperatures cooling off into the 30s, even 20s as you look at Milford at this hour. Winds not a factor right now. That changes though as we head into tomorrow and especially on Tuesday that we'll need to be talking about. But let's take a look at our satellite radar with that focus for tonight with that cold front. Let's take a look at that position where, again, it's right on our doorstep, beginning to move right through the Utah-Idaho border. As you look behind it, you're not seeing any blue. This is a dry cold front. Not expecting to see much shower activity, maybe a few flurries overnight, at least throughout the higher terrain. But the biggest focus will be once that front moves further southward. National Weather Service issuing a high wind watch in place for the Wasatch Front. We're talking about a downslope wind event. When does it hit and how strong will the winds be? I'll let you know coming up.
They go through 4 phases of training. The first one is hide and seek, run and jump behind a bush with their favorite toy.
But it's intense. Lots more ahead on Fox 13 News at 9. Coming up, we'll take an inside look at the training avalanche dogs at Solitude go through to save people's lives.
Plus, what if we told you there's a kind of technology out there that goes in your vent and that can eliminate COVID-19 from the air? Well, apparently there is. That's the claim. We're going to take a closer look at it right here in Utah.
And it was projected to cost $550 million, but by the time construction is finished, the price may nearly double. Details ahead in our Fox 13 360 report.
Welcome back. Taking a look at the latest coronavirus numbers here in Utah. The state reporting just under 1,600 new cases of COVID-19. It's the first time in a week that the new numbers have been under 2,000. Our weekly positivity rate is once again below 23%. More than 97% of Utah's ICU beds are occupied.
8 more deaths have been reported due to the virus from today's report. The victims were from Carbon, Iron, Millard, Utah, and Washington counties. Utah has now seen nearly 1,500 lives lost, partially due to COVID-19.
Another 4,600 COVID-19 vaccines have been administered since Saturday. This brings the total number of vaccines given here in Utah to over 157,000.
In southern Utah, Dameron Valley Fire and Rescue helping out those impacted by COVID-19. When Intermountain St. George Regional Hospital requested help in setting up some medical tents, Dameron Valley sent 4 crews to help them out. These tents are being set up to help the hospital's vaccination efforts, creating more space for hospital staff to assist their patients.
A Utah gym is using technology to make its cycling studio a little safer for its customers. Cycle Bar in South Jordan is using something called the Remy Halo. It's a piece of tech fitted into an HVAC system that claims to stop COVID-19 in its tracks. A study late last year looked at the effectiveness of a Remy Halo device inside a test room, and the study found the device inactivated 99.9% of COVID-19 in the air and on the surfaces. If you'd like to read more about the research done on the Remy Halo device, we've posted it to our website, fox13now.com.
This weekend, the Solitude Ski Patrol showing off some of the training that prepares their search dogs for life-saving work. Visitors got a chance to watch these dogs as they trained for a worst-case scenario. This exercise involving digging out a victim from an avalanche, just one part of a 4-level training program that can start when these dogs are just 7 weeks old.
We start them with training right as we get them, 7-8 weeks, light obedience, making sure they know how to play and tug. We like the floppy-eared hunting dogs, the dogs that have a lot of drive, the dogs that see the bird and they want to go for it.
Avalanche dog trainers say it can take 20 people 20 hours to search the same area that would only take a dog about 20 minutes.
Pretty remarkable. Man's best friend for sure. All right, need an excuse for a road trip to Arches or Zion or any of their other gorgeous national parks here in the Beehive State? Well, tomorrow you can get into any of the Mighty 5 here in Utah for free. This is all in observance of MLK Day, the National Park Service waiving entrance fees to all of their sites, including parks and other historical and cultural locations, including monuments. There are more than a dozen right here in Utah.
The opportunity to do those hikes really has been over the past weekend. A lot of sunshine, warmer temperatures. Will be a little bit cooler towards those national parks come tomorrow, but no threat of any showers. Well, as we look at today, once again, temperatures above normal. Official high in Salt Lake City, 47 degrees. That's 10 degrees above normal. Off the record of 56 degrees. Yeah, we still had a little bit of inversion, at least trapping some colder air, but it wasn't too strong as that haze a little bit thin, moderate concern levels throughout the day. Now, currently, as we look across the state, we're finding temperatures still in the upper 30s. That's below, still above normal, right ahead of a cold front, which looks to drop temperatures temperatures as we head into tomorrow. Now, air quality will see some improvements. Sunday to Monday will still be at that moderate concern level. Better improvement, though, Tuesday. The reason being, yes, the cold front tracks through, but we're going to be setting up some winds. That's the focus here as we look at your headlines as this cold front marches across the state tonight through tomorrow, mainly bringing clouds. Not a big threat of precipitation, really not much of a threat at all. But as we turn towards tomorrow night through Tuesday, we're setting up a situation that cold front moves further south, low pressure off towards the southwest, allows for a downslope wind event to occur. Think back to September. We had that same situation. This one not even close as far as strength and duration, but it will kick up some winds as we move into Tuesday. And we also have another storm that we'll be looking at as we look for the upcoming weekend. But let's talk about the winds. As I mentioned from the National Weather Service, high wind watch in place. That'll be changed tomorrow, issuing maybe advisory or probably a warning that'll be in effect again tomorrow night through early Tuesday. Winds kind of in that 35 to 45 mile per hour range, but the new models indicating that we could see wind gusts in excess of 70 miles per hour. Now, the event that happened in September, we had wind gusts closer towards 90 miles per hour. So again, the strength just not there. Now, for tomorrow, wind forecast, we're going to see some canyon winds in St. George as we head into the afternoon. But again, turning tomorrow night through early Tuesday morning, especially during the morning commute, we see that easterly flow providing for that downslope wind event. Here's the thing, the duration of this event, it's really Tuesday morning and then fading away Tuesday afternoon. That's also different from what we found in September, where we had a long, kind of a prolonged wind event that occurred, of course, caused all that damage. But you're still going to have to secure your garbage cans, and also we might see some minor tree damage from that event as we do kick up those winds. Again, really as we'll see those stronger wind gusts near the canyons. Now, this cold front lining up, again, is mainly bringing in the clouds. It pushes further southward. A combination of these low pressure systems move right towards the southwest. That's what's going to set up the situation as that wind event, again, occurring into Tuesday morning. But for tonight, we'll call for mostly cloudy skies, increasing clouds across the south. Temperatures in the 20s for northern Utah, teens and 20s for central Utah, low 30s in St. George as that cold front moves through. Temperatures will be dropping. We're talking 30s. Ogden and Salt Lake City, low 40s in Provo, even cooler in St. George as you'll be looking at partly sunny skies as temperatures will be in the 50s. Tuesday, some canyon winds as well. It's cooler, warming back up into the mid to upper 50s. And then we get hit with some rain Friday and Saturday. That's the storm heading into the weekend, which is going to bring precipitation all across the state. For northern Utah, we start off a little cool, back into the 40s, even mid 40s by Thursday, all in preparation of that storm. It brings initially a mixture of rain and snow, and then snow on Saturday. Models showing for snow accumulations in the mountains, 1 foot to 1.5 feet, maybe even a couple of inches for the valleys. We like to see this storm. Looks like we're going to get it, but we'll keep our eye on Tuesday morning for those downslope winds.
Thank you, Breck. Still ahead tonight, there could be some changes to Utah's liquor laws if some laws are passed this next legislative session. We'll take a closer look at what they are coming up. Welcome back. The Utah State Legislature will take on alcohol policy in the 2021 session.
As Fox 13's Ben Winslow reports on Utah's Capitol Hill, it comes as some powerful groups are planning to push for change.
People have a hard time thinking about moving to this state because they think we're a dry state.
The state's booming tech industry is starting to become more vocal about issues on Utah's Capitol Hill and bills in the state legislature.
Liquor is a part of that. It can be very difficult to recruit accurately and make sure that people understand the complexities when somebody just wants to have a glass of wine at home.
The legislature is poised to deal with alcohol policy again in the 2021 session.
The legislature is reluctant to modernize our liquor policy, and in some ways for the right reasons. You know, we want to make sure that alcohol is staying in the hands of adults only, and that we don't have drunk driving, and that we prevent people from falling down a slippery slope of addiction and things of that nature. No doubt, we have every reason to be concerned when it comes to liquor policy. Yet at the same time, we also want to make sure that our state law is keeping up with the times.
Senator Derek Kitchen is considering a bill that would allow bars and restaurants to sell sealed, pre-made drinks to go. It's something Utah's hospitality industry has pushed for in the COVID-19 pandemic.
This policy that I'm pushing, the to-go beverage amendments, would allow restaurants and bars to innovate and to stay alive during this really scary time.
But the Republican majority in the legislature may not go for that.
If I were going to make a prediction on that, I would tell you that I would not predict that that will be in legislation this year. I just think that I know there are people that would like to see that.
Senator Jerry Stevenson is tasked by the Republican majority with running liquor bills. He says while to-go drink sales is not a priority right now, they will look at whether Utah needs more bar licenses. The biggest issue is giving DABC more control over its budget and raises for liquor store employees.
The people actually manning the stores and our warehouse employees, we are drastically undermarketed as we hire those folks, and it's hard for us to keep them and get the good quality help we need.
Silicon Slopes Commons, which represents the tech industry, says any tweaks it wants to liquor laws are long-term goals.
It's definitely a wish list. It's on the Santa please list.
The 2021 legislative session kicks off next week. On the Hill, Ben Winslow, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Thank you, Ben. Still ahead, Utah building a new state prison, the hefty cost, and how this prison will look different in our 360 report when we come back. So glad you're joining us tonight. Utah building a new state prison.
It's going to be pricey. The final cost is now projected to come close to $1 billion. But what are taxpayers getting for their money, and how will the new prison be different?
Fox 13's Todd Tanner has more in this 360 report.
We had to put in quite a bit of infrastructure, about 7 miles of roads, water lines, sewer lines.
Utah's new state prison, taking shape west of the Salt Lake International Airport, is almost like a small city.
32 buildings, and it's over 250 acres, and it's out in the middle of nowhere.
Many of those buildings will be operational by the end of 2021. How much will the new prison cost, and how will it differ from the prison in Draper it's replacing? In this 360 report, you'll hear from the man in charge of construction.
The price tag keeps going up and it keeps going up.
An organization that tracks public spending.
We always want to watch these types of projects closely because they can be turned into a boondoggle.
You'll hear from the man who will run the new prison.
We do safety and security. So that really is our function.
And those who advocate for prisoners.
Let's get these guys an education.
First, the cost. Back in 2015, the estimate was $550 million.
We started funding it before we knew where it was going to go.
After ruling out other locations and selecting land near the Great Salt Lake,
our estimate was $860 million. And, this site is very complicated.
Jim Russell, who heads construction for state facilities, says the high water table and corrosive soils simply cost more to build on.
Originally, we thought we could just use regular rebar and pipe in the ground, and we have to use epoxy coated.
When all is said and done,
we should be under $1 billion with the final price tag.
Aside from a tricky building site, Russell says inflation in construction costs are to blame.
As we look at building costs for all kinds of entities.
Rusty Cannon represents the Utah Taxpayers Association, a nonprofit watchdog group.
Given the rise in construction costs with everything else, it does seem in line. It doesn't seem to surprise us at this point.
Russell says the project was on track to exceed $1 billion before modifications to the site plan and sewer system curbed costs. And he says that problematic site is ultimately a good one since the prison is bordered to the north and west by preserve lands that cannot be built upon.
We didn't put it in the middle of an area where you're going to have development around it again and have to move it eventually.
He also says the prison's infrastructure has aided in business development nearby.
We were really down to the minutes of when Amazon would have pulled the plug and gone somewhere else.
But he hopes the biggest benefit will have nothing to do with corrosive soils or giant warehouses.
If we can reduce recidivism, then we've got to win.
So how will the new prison be different?
There are so many things to be excited about with the new facility.
Brian Nielsen, appointed by Governor Cox, now heads the Utah Department of Corrections.
This is my first full week on the job.
Part of that first week included a tour of the construction site to see some of the new prison's features.
One of them that I was so excited about is really a simple thing, but having sunlight in an area where they're housed. That's just almost unheard of. And what a difference that makes.
The design is said to foster more interaction between staff and inmates and provide more options for things to do outside of prison cells, like getting food or a haircut.
It's really based around the concept of more normalized behavior to reduce recidivism. You know, if you keep people just housed up and then they go out back into the environment outside, then they're not prepared for that.
According to a recent report in the Salt Lake Tribune, Utah's recidivism rate is at 37% and rising. But some say that number does not reflect the magnitude of problems in Utah's prisons.
When you give someone the opportunity to learn, it changes who they are.
Ronnie Wilcox and Sue Steele started the nonprofit Prisoner Advocate Group.
Before our son was incarcerated, I didn't know that much about the criminal justice system.
He's now out, but the couple are committed to helping others through what they say are unnecessary situations.
You cannot believe how uncooperative they are to family members.
Among their concerns, insufficient medical care causes suffering, education programs are lacking, communication is challenging and often incorrect.
When our son was injured, I called his caseworker. He goes, "Oh no, he's perfectly fine. Nothing happened to him. He didn't even go to the infirmary. He's fine." It was an out and out lie.
If you could ask Brian Nielsen one question, what would it be?
I would ask Brian how hands-on he's going to be.
Definitely be engaged and involved.
I want to know what he's going to do to humanize the inmates and make sure that the prison staff understand that they are humans.
We have human staff. We have real people who work with those incarcerated and understand that they're real people too.
Nielsen says the new facility will help facilitate change.
It's also a mindset shift as well. And we definitely have plans to assist in that. The new prison provides optimism and hope.
Todd Tanner, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Coming up in sports, two big playoff games with the Browns and Chiefs and Buccaneers and Saints. And the Jazz went after their 5th win in a row tonight in Denver. The highlights are on the way. The Utah Jazz and Denver Nuggets played each other tonight for the first time since last season's playoff series, which the Nuggets won in 7 games. Donovan Mitchell, the hot start for the Jazz, throws down the first bucket of the game. Here's Mike Conley, 3 up and good, deep one. Jazz up 7 early. Conley had 14 points, 8 assists. Jordan Clarkson played great off the bench, hits the 3 plus the foul. 4-point play. Clarkson led the Jazz with 23 points. Third quarter now. Bojan Bogdanovic inside to Rudy Gobert. Big finish at the rim. 3-point play. He had 15 points, 13 rebounds. How about Rudy on this play? Gets the offensive rebound. Then the assist to Mitchell, who just rocks the rim. That's worth another look. Mitchell flying high on this one. That's just special. Then Donovan working for the bucket. Jazz up 1 with a minute to play, and he scores it. Tough bucket here. He finished with 18 points. The Jazz won at 109-105 for their 5th win in a row. NFL playoffs, 2 of the all-time greats, 42-year-old Drew Brees and the Saints against 43-year-old Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. The Saints with a trick play. Taysom Hill's out with a sore knee, so it's Jameis Winston in, fires it downfield to wide open Tre'Quan Smith. 56-yard score, Saints up 3. Buccaneers took over the late in the third quarter. Brady to Leonard Fournette, 6-yard score, tied it up at 20. Then in the fourth, Brady calls his own number for the touchdown. The Buccaneers won at 30-20. They'll play the Packers in the NFC Championship game. In the AFC, the Chiefs took on the Browns. Second quarter, Patrick Mahomes to Travis Kelce dives into the end zone for a touchdown. Chiefs up 13-3. There's a big play before the half. Baker Mayfield, Rashard Higgins. It looks like he's going to score. The former BYU Cougar Daniel Sorensen forces the fumble before he crossed the goal line. Sorensen not only stopped the touchdown, the Chiefs got the ball back on the touchback. The Browns still battle back in the second half. Kareem Hunt, touchdown run, cut the lead to 22-17. But the Chiefs put the game away with this gutsy call on 4th down. Chad Henne in for Mahomes, who was out with a concussion, completes the pass for a first down. The Chiefs won at 22-17. They'll play the Bills in the AFC Championship game. Number 3, Utah-ranked gymnastics team took on number 2, Oklahoma this afternoon. Miley O'Keefe, strong day for the Utes, finished tied for second on the bars with teammate Crystal Issa. Miley finished third on the vault, tied for third on the floor, and she won the beam with a 9.950. She also won the all-around. Sydney Solowski had a great performance on the floor, winning the event with a 9.9. But as a team, the Utes fell short. Oklahoma won the meet 197.2025 to 196.550. Coming up on the sports page, we'll hear from the Jazz after their win tonight, plus a look back at some college basketball games with the Aggies, Cougars, and Utes. We'll be right back.
Finally tonight, America's Golden Girl celebrating her birthday this weekend. Betty White turns 99 years old today. She has spent more than 80 years in showbiz. In 2013, she earned the Guinness World Record for longest TV career for a female entertainer. Happy birthday, Betty White.
Yes, so impressive.
Still working.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for watching Fox 13 News at 9.
Don't go anywhere. Quick Cast is up next, followed by Sports Page. See you in a few minutes.